I'm Judy Murray, and I'm often asked, what is a driving force? Well, it's something or someone who has the power to make things happen. I've seen firsthand just how far we've come in terms of levelling the playing field for female sports, and yet we still have so much ground to cover. On this journey, I'll meet some of our most successful sports stars, from football, rugby, netball, athletics, boxing, horse racing, and motor racing, and hear stories of dedication, determination, resilience, and exceptional skill. My aim is to look at where we've come from, where we are now, and at what the future holds. If you can see it, you can be it. I'm on my way to meet Tracey Neville, who won a massive 81 caps for England at netball and then made an incredibly successful transition from international player to world-class coach. She comes from an amazing sporting dynasty. You'll have heard of her footballing brothers, Gary and Phil. She led the England team to the gold medal at the Commonwealth Games in 2018 and is credited with turning the dial for netball.
She had that winning mentality.
She's got right to the very top of the ladder in her sport, and the reason she's got to the very top of the ladder isn't anything to do with me or anything to do with my brother or my mum or dad. It's her. She's gone and done that.
She became one of my heroes because of the sacrifices that she'd made.
Winning a gold medal, you're a history maker.
She's known for that complete drive, what she's created both on and off the court.
She is a huge driving force. She's ambitious, she's passionate, and will stop at nothing.
Tracey Neville changed netball. She changed everything about it.
Right, Judy, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So this is called killer. You might have played this in basketball. So basically, I'll take a shot. If I miss, you shoot, and you've got to try and get me out. But if I get mine in, I just move to the back of the queue.
Okay.
We're going to play killer. Do you want just like maybe 5 girls? Yeah. So you've got to shoot straight after me, yeah?
Okay. Oh, easy. Oh, come on, ball.
Yeah!
10th time lucky. Welcome to Driving Force, Tracey Neville. Tell us a little bit about your earliest memories of your family in a sporting context.
It's really hard to look back on that era and think that sport was anything else but a way of life for our family, really. My mum and dad, they were hugely into the sport, whether they were playing or whether they were watching. People talk about trophy parents and being forced into sport. It wasn't about that. Were we competitive? You know, we always wanted to win, we always wanted to do well, and we always wanted to succeed, but aside from that, we felt that it was fun to have a night, which generally was a Friday back then, with no sport on it, for us was probably one of the most miserable days of the week.
The children were just used to going from being weeks old to go and watch the dad play cricket at weekends, because they were out Saturday and Sunday. And I thought, we're not staying at home all day. We didn't want our children, I think back in their time, were street corner kids where they stand on street corners. That weren't for us. She's always been competitive, and I think with having 2 brothers, when they were playing cricket outside and football outside, she'd make sure she got a kick in and things like that and win. You know, that's how she's always been.
I definitely can say, and Gary and Phil could sit there and say, if it hadn't been for our mum and dad, we generally would probably have not succeeded.
People talk about heroes, and you know, every child has a hero. Our heroes were our parents, because they were our biggest influences. They were the biggest role models that we had.
I think my mum will have been the biggest driving force in Tracy's life, but without my mum even trying to be.
They didn't just contribute for us to be sports people and, you know, generate careers out of that. They contributed that to us as a person, our character, My mum still plays netball now. She's probably the only person whose body can actually play a team sport in our family at 70-year-old, but that is necessary for her.
My mum's love for sport was unbelievable, but when she played sport, it was always to win, and she was disappointed if she didn't win. I think Tracy's got that same tenacity and that same sort of competitiveness as my mum, really.
What values did they and sport instill in you as young people?
The three values that I measured myself against were united, passionate, honesty. They were definitely things that my mum and dad and the values that they put into me, because the united and passionate, you know, we could never, ever have succeeded if we hadn't have been. And my dad was a great believer in that. My dad always had an answer, he always had a solution, and it felt that there was never a problem. And, you know, this is coming from a family who, you know, they did struggle financially. We did struggle growing up financially. There were 3 kids who wanted everything to do with sport, but they made things happen for us, and they were the ones who, them values were really strong within our family. I used to be fascinated by my mum and this really great sport that it started to become within my life. She was a goal attack. It became as gradually as I started to grow up that if there was a spare bib when they were practicing, I used to ask if I could play. Netball become this sport where my mum become the role model for me.
She had that winning mentality. She then joined the local YW netball team, which at the time you couldn't really join till you were 13, but she was like 10, 11, and as tall as the 13-year-olds. So they accepted her playing.
I didn't know there was anything more than local league at that particular time, because I didn't have anything to compare. I only thought you could play on television if you played football and you were male.
If you didn't know about netball, you never saw it. It wasn't a career, it was just a hobby. The woman's place was still in the home. People thought that's what you should do. And if I ever said to somebody, oh, I'm going off to Australia to play netball in the World Tournament, they could not believe that I was allowed to do this. I suppose we accepted that was the way it was. I think people are less accepting these days.
At the time, probably the only female on television that I had exposure to was Steffi Graf. And what I loved about her, she was a young athlete that come in. She wasn't very much in the media eye. She just quietly got about her own business. I liked the way she interviewed and how she quietly became successful doing that. My brother's got a lot of media attention when we were growing up, but I felt that I just quietly went about my sport, and that really helped me and supported me.
The night before a match, back at the house, what's the atmosphere like? Is everybody edgy? There's a couple of eyes going over here. Is everybody edgy, or is it just the normal routine?
No, I don't notice anything. I think my dad gets a little bit edgy sometimes before games, but I don't know, I think my mum just keeps quiet and out of the way of my dad.
I hate it when they do something wrong.
They probably do as well.
Because I get so much stick at college.
Do you, honestly?
Yeah, off people.
Really?
They notice everything they do wrong, because they're my brothers and that. They like to say, oh, Gary had a nightmare doing that, or something like that.
That doesn't happen often.
She probably at times did have to fend for herself amongst 2 boys in a heavily football biased family.
She could have always remained the sister of, and she didn't. She quickly broke out of that mould and presented herself as Tracey Neville in her own right.
Tracy has worked extremely hard to overcome that, even as a 16, 17-year-old.
She's got right to the very top of the ladder in her sport, and the reason she's got to the very top of the ladder isn't anything to do with me or anything to do with my brother or my mum or dad, it's her. She's gone and done that. She's achieved everything that she's achieved through her own performance.
Coming up next on Driving Force.
As my dad always said, you may only ever get one opportunity. It was my dream.
She became one of my heroes because of the sacrifices that she'd made. Tracy is probably one of my biggest weaknesses in life.
Keep it close.
You were 12 when you started to play with a women's team. Is that right? Because
Yeah.
there weren't many junior netball teams around in those days.
I remember the second session I was there, I got asked to play for the ladies C team in the Manchester League on a Saturday, and I was so nervous, I actually forgot the venue that I was playing at, and I actually turned up at the end of the game on the Saturday, would you believe? On my first
So you missed the whole thing?
I missed the whole thing because I was 12-year-old, and all I could hear was that I'd been selected to play for, you know, YWCA at that particular time in the Berry League, and that's all I could focus on.
My first meeting and recollection of Tracy, I'd been asked to go to coach Berry YW, of which Tracy was a junior member. They brought some under-16s in to play against, and in these under-16s was Tracey Neville and Karen Atkinson. The potential was already there. All I had to do was bring it out.
Tell me a little bit about your experiences at the World Youth Cup.
I was going away first time with a netball team. I'd never been away with a netball team before, and we didn't have any kit. All our kit were men's, and I just remember just looking like a frump in it. You know, they just went straight up and down, and we went to this competition. We went up against New Zealand and Australia for the first time, and I remember coming off the first quarter, and I think I asked for the sick bucket because I didn't know what intensity top international sport had played at. I'd never played against an international team, only locally around Wales, Scotland, and I just didn't even know what to expect.
So that experience at the World Youth Cup really opened your eyes to the lack of investment. Did it also make you aware of the difference between the sport that you were in, a female sport, as opposed to football, where your brothers are starting to become incredibly successful and everything that is provided for them?
Philip was signing a contract for Manchester United. His decision was, did he sign for Manchester United or did he go and play cricket for Lancashire? My decision was which GCSE, which college facility was. Netball was just the add-on.
The life that she had at that moment in time meant that she couldn't do anything other than sacrifice herself to go to netball, and that was pretty damn tough. She wasn't earning good money.
I have to say, my family made things a lot easier for me. Our journeys followed the same path. Me, Gary and Phil, we sort of got into the national club team at the same time. We made international level at the same age. So our paths sort of followed the same journeys.
We were the proudest parents alive. That's all you can say, isn't it?
I think I've cried 10, 12, 15 times when I've seen her succeed. I remember going to watch her play for England at the MEN Arena in Manchester, and she came out, she looked beautiful. She became one of my heroes because of the sacrifices that she'd made. Tracy is probably one of my biggest weaknesses in life.
When you speak to Gary and Philip now, they know that I had the hardest journey, but I still succeeded, and they're quite proud. And they probably weren't even aware of the journey I had because of the bubble that they were in.
My dad loves supporting all of us, but if he could go and watch, obviously, his boys play for United versus Tracy, say, play, for instance, for England at netball, he'd go and watch his boys play for United because that was his dream. He took us to United at the age of 5. He'd been watching them himself. So this was like, my dad lived a dream, really.
I was probably going playing at Old Trafford. I was probably going training 2 miles down the road at the Cliff training ground, earning a lot of money, having a brilliant life, making probably the same sacrifices as Tracy, but getting rewarded for that in other ways where I could treat my family, I could look after my family, I could look after my mum and dad. I was one of the ignorant ones because I was ignorant to my sister.
How did your experiences of being in that England senior setup help to form you as a coach further down the line?
I just remember coming back from the World Youth Cup, and there were 5 of us at that particular time who were very talented, who got escalated very quickly into that senior team. And then before we knew it, we were a team that Sport England really wanted to look at, and they decided to invest in us. And I think that's when the probably pressure started for England netball, because there was no expectation on them then. It was an expectation that we won bronze, and that was acceptable. Australia and New Zealand, who were sort of semi-professional moving into that professional era, were expected to win at major competitions. And I think through that particular playing career, we probably brought over some of the best coaches in the world because we were a governing body who was being highly funded in comparison to my other siblings, and I was getting £742 a month. It used to cost me something like £450 in travel, but it was the first time that England Netball had been paid, and I'd been paid as an athlete, and I felt that was a step forward. I was so proud of that, and I was the first on that journey.
When I first started playing, I was lucky to get my kit for free. You know, there was very limited. We get funding at playing for England internationally, but nothing at Super League level.
When I was playing for Thunder back in the day, there was no money involved, and we did it because we loved netball and we wanted to play netball, and that's what we were passionate about. But we weren't striving necessarily to be professional because we never probably thought that it was within our realm.
Through that particular period, my experiences of Australia netball, New Zealand netball, we had some of the best coaches in the world, and I was one of the players who were able to sponge and absorb that and sort of collate that as I started to move into my coaching career. But I think the bad thing that happened to us was that there was more onus on that gold medal place. You don't worry about the pathway or what's coming through, and that was vital for me when I was coming up as a youngster. Them 5 youngsters probably wouldn't have come through in that block. To win a gold medal, we needed to make a change. There has to be more investment at grassroots. There has to be more investment in female sport, but they have to create pathways for these people to come through. And I think during that time of my playing career, if I hadn't learned what was important, I don't think I would be the coach I was today.
She was a driving force, you know, within England Netball that really strived that team to grow and be better. And you know, you look at that and how she was as a player, I think emulates how she is and how she's developed as a coach as well.
She learnt a lot about herself. She is an amazing coach, and not many people can be a coach. It takes a certain mindset.
I think what's so important about Tracy is that her character lives up to her name, and I mean that with the greatest respect, because I love how direct she is, I love her passion, and I love that she knows where she's going, and that's what makes her a great leader.
Tracy's picked up some of my traits, but generally speaking, she puts her own in there and she gets what she wants.
So it was 2015 that you came in as the interim head coach of the Vitality Roses. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you had to change, because it's difficult to change things quickly when you come in, isn't it? You have to take your time, don't you?
Judy, right, another thing my dad, he always said, there's never a no. You can always do it. I don't like the word no, and that's something I always used to say to my bosses.
That's always been our motto. Go for it, and if it don't work out, we're behind you, it don't matter, does it?
As someone who plays netball in England, I think she's someone that you can aspire to. I think she's a driving force of change, of where we need to be and how we can get there.
It had to go back to what formulated me, and at the end of my playing career, I got a huge injury. And the management around that injury, I thought at the time, you know, when I look back, was poor. I'd had surgery 2.5 weeks later. I got told I was going to the World Championships out in Jamaica, and I played my first game 2.5 weeks after an operation, which pretty much ended my international career.
It was an horrendous time for Tracy, you know, the injury, because it wasn't just a straightforward injury. It was an injury that was career-threatening. It was an injury that was gonna put everything that she'd ever worked for, everything that she'd ever sacrificed, away.
It sort of scared me, really, because my life was netball, and I'd gone and done a maths degree, which was something I definitely decided I didn't want to do. And at that particular time, I didn't have anything else in my life. I went back and did a sports science and nutrition degree, but there was also a good friend of mine advised me and said, if you want to be a coach and you want to be a leader, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I started to gather a whole world of experiences because I thought that was hugely important, but also I took on an under-19 team because I didn't want to be one of them players who jumped straight from international into a top coaching job.
Within YW, we had a setup. We were probably more advanced than most, where she could come in and assist. And she took a YW under-19s to the nationals and actually won it. She followed her own instincts, because coaching is sometimes not about what you read in a book, it's following your own instincts. And she's never looked back.
Coaching at that youngster level was really important for me, and I coached with kids. I did a lot of work. I set up some netball camps across the country, and I used to go and coach that because I thought to myself, if I can coach a 5-year-old to do a particular skill, then I can coach a senior member. Then I got approached to coach up at Team Northumbria, and this was a team that hadn't won a game. That for me was the right job to start my coaching journey. And then I got approached by Manchester Thunder.
We wanted someone that had, or that shared our vision. I think the pull of Manchester Thunder of home, I think it resonated with her, and she knew it was potential opportunity that she couldn't, it may not come around for a while.
I'd like to say that probably escalated me into that England role.
Because you were hugely successful there, weren't you? 2 Super League titles?
2 Super League titles through my 4-year career, and they'd never won a Super League before.
Her first season, she won our first title for us. We knew that she was capable of achieving something special.
It wasn't for me about winning them Super League titles, it was about transitioning athletes, and that was something that at the time it was a particular intricate of a coach. How do you transition an athlete from a pathway success into international world class? I really enjoyed trying to improve youngsters. We didn't have much money and we needed to create a sustainable income and a sustainable model, and bringing our own talent through was important.
She's probably one of the most intense, kind of passionate people I have ever met. She is hard work in the best possible sense, because she will keep on at you until she gets what she wants, but in the right way and for the right things.
She's injected definitely a lot more passion and a lot more energy and drive into how we want to move forward as a franchise.
During my success, I got a call off the CEO of England Netball for a meeting, and I got asked to be the England coach.
You know, it's part of her progression, and who better to kind of take on that role, and we at Manchester Thunder supported her wholly and fully in that decision, and look what happened.
It was the first time that a netball coach had ever been sacked, and for me to be able to accept that role meant that one of my, colleagues, friends I'd worked with, was having to be removed from that particular role, and that can be quite hard because within netball there's a lot of loyalty. I really enjoyed working with this particular coach as well, and I was sat with my dad in the room at the time when they offered me this position, and it was my dream. As my dad always said, you may only ever get one opportunity, and that one opportunity come through at a time when I didn't expect it, and I took it.
Coming up next on Driving Force.
This was something that my dad would want me to. I didn't see any point me going home. What did I go home for?
We were very proud that she stayed there and had that mindset to concentrate on what she was doing at a bad time.
Keep it going. 8, 7.
Your story is so incredibly impressive. For me, as somebody who's come through the coaching pathway, it doesn't surprise me one bit that you have had the success that you've had, because you've gone out of your way to invest in yourself and you have gone out of your way to understand the entire pathway. When you took that role, how long did you have before your first major event?
I got appointed in March, that was the official, but bearing in mind I was still coaching Manchester Thunder at the time. There was a transition over from one coach to another, and there was a complete remit. We need to win a medal to get our funding. We have to do everything we can to win it, but we've got no money. You don't have time to consider people's feelings. All you have to do is pick the best athletes and put the best programme in place in 6 weeks to go out to a World Cup and win a medal. And that's what I did. We won a medal, a bronze medal, but there was a lot of learning experiences I gathered during that particular time. There was a lot of... My dad actually passed away at that particular competition. It was probably a scenario that I realised that I never ever wanted to be in again.
Well, Neville had always wanted to go to Australia. I had been when Tracy played for Adelaide. And he said, we're not just going out for the tournament, we're going out. I've got an agenda of everything I want to see. So I'm going to go out a week before, we'll go out a week before, and I'm going to see everything. And to be fair, he did. We got it all in before the day he died.
I'd been to Norman Whiteside's wedding. My sister was over in Australia with my mum and dad. And basically, I answered the phone and my sister was hysterical, saying, Dad's collapsed. I think he's in trouble. And I said, FaceTime me now. And I always remember, and she was screaming and I FaceTimed her, and my dad was being basically wheeled into a theatre.
We sat at the hospital all the time for 2 days, thinking he was going to come round. And I said afterwards, why didn't you tell me you weren't going to come round? She said, I couldn't get that into your mind. He died. Sorry.
How did you keep your focus on that campaign?
It was the mindset. It's one of them things that you just couldn't even imagine. I think the thing that I didn't expect was that Gary and Phil flew out, obviously, to support my mum and to support me. But the Nevilles moved quickly, Judy. And I just remember Gary turning around saying, we're going home tomorrow. Bearing in mind he'd only been in the country 24 hours.
It was scary, really, because you're numb. You know, I've never been to Australia in my life. It's 24 hours away, you're jet-lagged. You're trying to get to sleep, you don't know what's happening. Tracy's managing a netball team while all this is going on.
Gary said he wasn't leaving me there. He'd stay there until I said, you can't miss 2 weeks, 10 days. He said, well, I'm staying here. I said, no, I want to stay. Tracy didn't want me to. And I can understand now why. Because she said, I'd be worrying about you all the time, being on your own. So it was decided that I came home the day after.
At any key event I've ever been at, I've always had someone on the sideline, and I was so shocked. And I remember going back to the village that night and I thought, I'm in Australia at my first World Cup and I've got no family.
Got to do it on my own.
I've got to do it on my own. And I spoke to my partner at the time, Michael, and he was at home, and he just said to me, do you want me to come? And I just went, yeah.
I think that was obviously a really hard time for the whole family. I'd actually just met Tracy. For me, I think it was hard whether to make that decision to go over and support Tracy, or one, am I getting in the way?
I felt that I had someone there, and he, you know, and I just went into that competition. The way I managed myself and what I did at that particular time is not something that someone else would do. This was something that my dad would want me to. I didn't see any point me going home. What did I go home for?
He would have said, what are you coming home for? No, you can do. We were very proud that she stayed there and had that mindset to concentrate on what she was doing at a bad time.
To be in that emotional state and to still give everything to the team, which is what happens at a World Cup, was huge. and we owe her so much for that. But it was probably a roller coaster of emotions going through that competition. And to come out with a bronze, I look back at it now and go, actually, we did really well.
I remember a media person said to me after, is the reason that you only won bronze was because your dad died? And I just didn't even think that that was a question that could be asked of me, because the team weren't right. You know, my appointment wasn't right. Everything about the whole thing wasn't right. And I knew just from that short time what I wanted to do and what I needed to do to put us in the best possible scenario to win a gold medal.
She wants things to change. And that's what she did, actually, with the Roses leading up to the Commonwealth Games. She set up the Roses programme 2016, which has allowed women to have careers, have babies, and still be involved in the programme, to push it to the professional level. That wasn't easy. That was one of the toughest times of her career.
What I did during that particular time, I learned a lot about myself and the people that I work with. And that when you're putting a staff team together, when you're putting a team together, that you have to have a complement of people who facilitate that. It was about the future of the organisation. It wasn't just about my term within that.
That girl has got the biggest drive I've ever seen to overcome the sacrifices, the boundaries that females have in sport. She had the best seat in the house because she knew what elite sport was, because she used to come to Old Trafford with us. She used to come to the training grounds with us. She used to hear us speak. She used to see the clothes that we're given, the training kit, the facilities that we had, the money that we was given, the sponsorships was given. So any time that she was fighting for something, she was fighting for something that she knew was elite.
We looked at other sports, but the budgets they had were vastly more than what we England Netball had. The way we went in, we wanted to start making the sport professional. We said that we're going to have 24 professional contracts. The fight back from that, now you're talking netball is a highly intelligent female sport. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have zoologists, people who are very successful within their sport. We were asking them to potentially give up their careers for a period of time during the year to come and take funding that was probably only a third of what they were on. At the time, I brought over a key influential person, Why Tomorrow. I needed someone from an outside opinion who I knew would speak honestly to me. And she just said to me, Tracy, the one thing that I know about you is you laugh all the time, you know, you joke, you're bubbly. Where is that? And I thought to myself, for me to genuinely succeed in this job, I do need to laugh because I like to laugh.
I think the laws of sport are very hard. I don't think people see that unless you're a partner of somebody who's in sport, that them laws really affect not only the person and the team, but the families connected to that.
She took England netball to another level of professionalism, elitism, and she had to fight like mad. That at times that made her ill. I've seen my sister look physically ill for fighting against the establishment, fighting against sexism, fighting against lack of equality. And ultimately, that would have took its toll. It did when she was a player. Fighting against all the things that female athletes have to fight against made my sister ill.
Coming up next on Driving Force.
As soon as Helen Halsby got that ball to shoot, I thought, she ain't gonna miss. And she didn't.
I literally cried in the room and screamed. I couldn't believe how happy I was for her because I knew at that moment she'd done something that was really special.
Keep it going. 8, 7.
You get to the Commonwealth Games 2018, and I would be like many, many others watching that match. You go into the final quarter and it's 51-47 and you've got 20 seconds to go and it's 51-all, and I'm thinking, what on earth is Tracy going to say to them now? How on earth are you feeling? Talk me through that.
I remember starting out this competition and for us it was, we wanted to win the group. We'd formed a group of athletes that knew their strengths, knew what roles they played within that team, even the staff, that actually it was like clockwork. People thought that the final was the most pressured game for us. It definitely wasn't, Judy. It was that semi-final. We went into this game and we just couldn't win. And I remember taking off my star shooter because it just wasn't working. And we put on this young kid. And you talk about the pathway and building the pathway. And this Roses programme had built this particular kid. And I put her on. And the energy, the fearlessness, she'd never been in this position before. She'd never played a semi-final. And she just went for it in this particular semi-final. The youth, investing in the youth and the confidence and the mixture of youth and experience is vital in key pressure scenarios like that because they have no history, they have no backstory. I remember going back to the village and we all sat there and watched the game together as a team, as a group. And I said, we have to enjoy this game before we concentrate on the next one.
I said, what a game yesterday. I said, well, at least you get silver now. Silver? I can't believe you said that, Mother. I'm going for gold.
We went out on that Sunday and the team were just different. The team were the team that we'd had all the way through that cycle. Everyone was just watching them.
The belief that that team had in each other, I believe I saw in Tracy as a player many, many years ago.
We walked out into the stadium and everything was, you know, gold and green. Every stadium I've ever been through in my England career has always been gold and green. You know, or black and silver, it's always been Australia, New Zealand. And honestly, as soon as Helen Halsby got that ball to shoot, I thought, she ain't gonna miss. And she didn't.
Helen Halsby to take the gold medal! England have done it! England have done it! They have broken history! They have made history! They have snatched the gold medal from Australia! They have taken it! They have taken it!
If that doesn't get you excited, literally nothing will.
I literally cried in the room and screamed. I couldn't believe how happy I was for her because I knew at that moment she'd done something that was really special.
Ultimately, Tracey Neville made history. Winning a gold medal, you're a history maker.
They've never ever beat Australia. Even like in the run-ups to everything, they've never beat Australia. After they won it all, she climbed up all the seats to us and just hugged me and Michael up in the stand and everybody round, everybody rugging her and she would just like that.
She had a real good belief in that team that she had at the time and she knew they had the quality of players to do that. It was just about getting through that. It was about that team believing that, really.
I knew that she'd gone through a lot of toughness in terms of getting the squad to where she wanted it. She fought the establishment, she fought her bosses, she fought the team to get what she wanted. And I've got a picture in my phone and it's all I wanted to see was the gold medal. And she kissed the gold medal and I'm getting emotional now thinking about it. And she kissed the gold medal and it's one of the best pictures I've ever had.
It wasn't just about me and the team, it was about the history of the sport, the people that had contributed. It felt that that gold medal was for everyone.
You had the likes of David Beckham tweeting Helen Halsby, who obviously shot the final goal. If you have Beckham tweeting about netball, it's just going to go global. And it did. It went all over the world.
The stat that got me wasn't that we made history. It was the number of people that took up netball and the difference that you can make to a sport by getting such a successful achievement.
She really drove the public perception of the sport in this country in a way that changed it forever. I think we owe her a huge debt of gratitude for that.
England performing so well off the back of the Commonwealth Games. It's such an exciting time for netball.
Growing up as a young girl, watching her and then obviously watching her win gold at the Commonwealth Games, it almost gave me goals that I didn't think I could actually think about.
When they're growing up to be a netball player now, they want to be a Tracey Neville and Helen Halsby.
I think these young girls now coming through see that as an ambition. I can be a full-time netballer.
We went on to win numerous awards, but the biggest one for us was probably the BBC Team of the Year, the greatest moment.
The 2018 Team of the Year is England Netball Team.
Firstly, thank you to the BBC and the panel who voted for us. As you can tell, we're a bit shocked, surprised and happy. Some of our girls arrived home to the delight that the country had been backing us and supporting us, and just like football was coming home, we hope that netball came home and that it will for many years to come.
To change a mindset is so difficult to do, but she did it in the short period of time beforehand. And I came away from that final thinking, they can go on and win another gold and another. She set the precedence now.
That was momentous going into the next World Cup, and you talk about a dream as a youngster. That was my dream, and I did finish for personal reasons after that World Cup. But my dream was to walk into a stadium that was full of English supporters. Every single ticket was taken.
It was literally off the charts. It showed the whole country the popularity of this incredible sport. Because don't forget, it is the most popular female sport in the UK.
Tracey Neville changed netball. She changed everything about it. Yes, she changed netball on the court and the success trajectory of the sport in this country, but she changed the image of netball and the profile of netball.
What was it that prompted your decision to retire?
I really wanted a child. I really wanted to put myself in the best situation to have a child. And, you know, I'd had a couple of miscarriages. We were trying for a family.
And it all worked out because you've got your gorgeous little Nev. Of course he's called Nev.
He wasn't so gorgeous yesterday morning, Judy.
And you found a way back into netball.
I found a way at the moment that enables me to find some of the joy and the passion without the pressure. And Manchester Thunder have been absolutely excellent in facilitating my journey. I'm now sitting on as a board member, something that I've never done before, but also I'm able to just go in and coach.
Having somebody come in who's been away for so long, comes back in with a fresh mind, gets good eyes on these young kids and sees how good they are. How can we be better?
You have to succeed, and we knew that. We had to succeed, but there also has to be that investment to succeed. If you look at comparable, you know, England Netball are living on a £1.2 million budget, trying to operate in the counterparts to other sports who are getting something like a £25 million budget to run the same programme. You know, we have to try and create more opportunities for females.
We still need female role models to go out there and keep charging and keep fighting. They've been suffocated for too long, and some are probably still scared to put their head above the parapet because of the repercussions that come their way, the criticism.
We need to shout about ourselves more, and I think we need to take ourselves seriously.
Netball is an unbelievable sport. Come and watch it. You know, my partner didn't even really know what netball was before we met. He would rather sit and watch a game of netball than he would football because there's more happening.
It's fast, it's exciting, I like it, I always have. The atmosphere in the arenas is absolutely unbelievable.
The way the game's played now, I think, gosh, I'd have a lot of hard work to do.
The visibility on television is massive. It's everything.
During this last Super League, it's been absolutely brilliant because it's been on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, like 12, 2, 4, 6. And me and the grandchildren, our weekend's been made.
I think we're really catching up to Australia and New Zealand in the way that netball's produced as an entertainment product. And with more people watching netball, with more people going to games, is where we're going to keep netball pushing forward, making it accessible for all.
What makes netball so appealing is it's women coming together, it's women supporting each other.
When girls are making them decisions at 14-year-old, you're not just making career decisions about whether you want to be a physio or whether you want to be that. You're making career decisions about, no, I want to play netball. And that is something that I'm hearing from girls now. I listen to my nieces, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a netballer.
She sees more of my children now. I've got two girls, 11 and 12, and she's outside doing a netball session with the pair of them, and she's working them hard. I always feel as though my mum did that with my sister, and I feel like my sister's now doing that with my two girls.
Tracey Neville's legacy Well, for a start, I don't think she's finished yet.
She is a huge driving force. She's ambitious, she's passionate, and will stop at nothing.
Tracey Neville is the epitome of netball in this country. She's such a fantastic role model, not only for netballers, but for women, regardless of what sport you play.
She's known for that complete drive, what she's created both on and off the court, and how she's helped push our sport forward, the name forward, the brand forward.
She really is an inspiration.
Tracy, thank you so much for joining us on Driving Force and sharing your fascinating journey. The sporting world needs female role models, and particularly female role models on the coaching side, and you have so much to offer, and it's been fascinating listening to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you.